The company that's known for making a gaming monster is back again with the latest Snapdragon processor. Last year, I uploaded a video on iQOO 13 mentioning its gaming capabilities, and with every new release, the biggest question is, what are the major upgrades from the previous successor? Huge shout out to iQOO for not sponsoring me. Again. Now, as always, they got the most recent Snapdragon processor, this time being the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor that beats its previous version with 88% in AnTuTu benchmark, with around 3.6 million score. The temperature spiked to around 13 to 14 degrees during the test, but there was no crash or overheating issue. These are the Geekbench 6 and Geekbench AI test. And again, no crash, no overheating. Next, we did the Wildlife Extreme Stress Test. The stability was around 67%, and again, no overheating or crash. Although the temperature did rise up to 50 degrees, which is normal. Then we did the CPU throttle test. The phone didn't heat it up much, and you can clearly see the results on your screen. Now, it's true that these are just the on-paper benchmarks, which has nothing to do with actual performance. But let's not forget iQOO 15 got a new supercomputing chip that boosts the overall benchmark percentage to up to 60%. Unlike the Q2 chipset from iQOO 13, the Q3 aims for a console-grade visual experience and a PC-level frame stability, pushing the boundaries of mobile graphics further than the Q2 chipset. And if you think all these bigger upgrades means a lot more heat, then let me tell you, iQOO 15 comes with a large, single-layer 8K vapor chamber cooling system, and the brand claims that the system is 47% more efficient at heat dissipation compared to the iQOO 13 cooling system. It also got the 7,000 milliampere battery, yet the phone is as slim as iQOO 13. It got the world's first 6.85 inches of Samsung's 2K M14 LTP OOLED display with a 144 Hz adaptive refresh rate and an exceptionally high local peak brightness of 6,000 nits. To put the cherry on top, it has a 3,200 Hz of instantaneous touch sampling rate for responsive gaming. But seriously, guys, an actual game test without gameplay is as useless as watching till now without dropping a single like. So first, we hopped on to the GENSHIN IMPACT, obviously cause it's considered a very heavy game. Now, this test was a 30-minute average FPS test. Also, keep in mind that the graphics and frame rates are on the highest value possible, and the first test was on the native 60 FPS without the Ultra Frame Booster. And on an average, the phone provides us with the 57.74 frames per second. But the most interesting thing that caught my sight was the heat. Despite playing on the max graphics settings, the phone didn't heat at all. You can clearly see it started from somewhere around 36 degrees Celsius, and the highest it went was 37 degrees Celsius. On the second part, we used the Ultra Frame Booster feature along with high resolution and ray tracing, while the graphics were still max. Now this time the temperature do rise with a plus 6 degrees Celsius of a spike, and the average FPS was around 116, although I do expected a better result, but maybe they'll fix it in the further system updates. Next on the list was Wuthering Wave, another Genshin Impact type game, but with better graphic quality. Now this game does not support Ultra Frame Booster yet, but we do kept all the graphical settings to the maximum capacity of the device. Similar to Genshin Impact, the game is capped to 60 frames per second, and you can clearly see the average of 56.76 frames per second on a 30-minute session, and the maximum temperature reaching about 43 degrees Celsius with a spike of 10 degrees Celsius, which is really a bit of a concern, as it's the hottest among all the testings so far. No doubt, the amount of spikes are increased for both FPS stability and temperature as compared to GENSHIN IMPACT, but there wasn't any lag or delay, to be honest. The phone felt a bit warm, but 45 degrees Celsius is normal for a phone to reach while gaming. Next up, we tried Red Dead Redemption Netflix Edition. Being a story mode game, it's capped to 30 frames per second, with a stunning graphics that doesn't really requires the game visual enhancement of iQOO 15. The game session was of an hour, since I got carried away interacting with environment and beating up women. Despite the long session, there wasn't much of a fluctuations in FPS. The average FPS was 30, and the temperature spiked up to 9 degrees, although the stability was almost the half of our previous testings, which doesn't need any explanation since it's a PC game. I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for your incredible support on my previously uploaded iQOO 13 unboxing video. As a token, I have decided to give away my iQOO 13 to one lucky viewer. To join the giveaway, just follow the steps in the description and fill out the form in the pinned comment so that you can get a chance to win my iQOO 13 phone. Moving further, for our next test, we jumped straight to BGMI, where the first match was of Team Deathmatch. The graphics was on super smooth and frame rates to ultra extreme. The match ended in around 4 minutes, but the temperature didn't rise at all. In fact, upon looking at the stats, it says the reading went 2 degrees down, from 39 to 37 degrees Celsius. The average FPS was 112.67, and the stability was around 93.4%. For the second BGMI test, we selected the Ultra HDR graphic with ultra frame rate that is 40 FPS. Now this test was just after the first, and despite keeping the graphics to Ultra HDR, the temperature dropped another degree from 37 to 36 degrees Celsius. This time the stability was around 32.4%, and the average FPS was 39.27 without much of a spike. For the third BGMI test, we kept everything as Test 2, but we also turned on the Ultra Frame Booster. The frames, which was previously locked to 40 frames per second, instantly increased to 120 plus frames per second. The average FPS was 111.62, with 1 degree spike in overall temperature. The stability was around 77%, and the maximum temperature was 37 degrees Celsius for a 5-minute match. For the fourth BGMI test, we jumped into Livik with super smooth graphic and ultra extreme FPS. This was a 15-minute match, and the end result gave us an average FPS of around 116.67 with no rise in temperature at all. Also, the stability was around 96%, and the maximum temperature was around 77 degrees Celsius. Now, it won't really be a review video without the Call of Duty Mobile, so The first mode that I tried was multiplayer with low graphics and ultra frame rate, without the ultra frame booster. It was a 5-minute match, and we got the 116 of average FPS without any temperature rise at all. The stability was around 96.7%, and the maximum temperature of the device was 35%. For our second test, we hopped into the solo versus squad battle royale mode with low graphics and ultra frame rate. The match duration was around 16 minutes, and it gave an average FPS of around 119, and the lowest it went was 116. The stability was even better, reaching around 98.9%, and the temperature spike was of 1 degree Celsius, reaching the maximum temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. For the third match, we went on another multiplayer mode with ultra frame rate and low graphics, but this time we turned on the ultra frame booster. The average FPS was around 120, and lowest it went was 113. The stability was around 82.9%, and the maximum temperature was 35 degrees Celsius with a rise of 1 degree Celsius spike. For our final test, we tried the Delta Force Mobile. For our first match, we hopped into warfare mode, with graphics on smooth and frame rate on 120 frames per second. To be honest, it's very disappointing that the 144 frames per second is still unavailable in the game, while the phones are now capable to handle 165 frames per second. Our first match lasted for 12 minutes, and the average FPS was around 113. The stability was around 95%, and the temperature has a spike of 1 degree Celsius, reaching the maximum temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. If you look at the FPS graph, you'll see a lot of spikes in it. But let me tell you, in Delta Force, if you die, you get a map interface for your redeployment. That following scene works in around 30 frames per second, this affecting the overall frames per second in the testing. So these spikes are basically the number of times I died in the 12-minute match. For the second Delta Force mobile test, we applied the HD graphic quality and 120 frames per second, and played another warfare match for around 12 minutes. This time, the average FPS was around 112, and the stability was around 95%, with a 4 degrees Celsius spike in temperature, reaching the maximum temperature to 40 degrees Celsius. The HD graphic didn't affect the overall stability of the frames, so you can even play on high graphics without thinking about the unstable FPS. In fact, there's no lag or sudden crash in FPS for any of the games we played. The gameplay was smooth, and there's nothing you can do to spot the FPS drop with just your eyes. The games tried a lot to heat up the phone, but instead, they ended up in cooling it. That's it, guys. These were few of the games that I personally thought could use the full power of the processor. Let me know what you guys think would be a heavy game even for the iQOO 15. Till then, keep praying for iQOO to sponsor me next year, and stay safe. Also, feel free to be the part of iQOO 13 giveaway. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.